All right, today we're going to get into another advanced tactics, and what I want to start doing is a new series where I start sort of giving people strategies against some things that go on in OPR. That, for instance, things like ambush, scout, and certain armies. I want to talk about some specific ways to win against some of these strategies. The reason that I'm picking up this new series is I feel that OPR has gotten a bad reputation as sort of being a very lax and sort of an easy game, beer and pretzels. That it's not really. It's a lot harder and a lot more tactical than people give it credit. And so I think it's a bit. It surprises people when they are expecting a very easy game, and they end up when they play it that it's a pretty tight game, and it can throw people off. So yeah, with that in mind, let's just get into this. Hey, just do the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, and comment. All right, let's just get into it as well. So ambush is obviously very powerful in this game. We're going to talk about some strategies to cover it. First thing, I think it's not a strategy, but it is something that's going to help you win more often against ambush is larger points. We're going to talk about warning cry. We're going to talk about how you need to... So a few of my thoughts are... 3 of them are about army list building. So bringing in things like warning cry, bringing in chaff, and then bringing in an ambush of your own. That's how you build your army. You know when you play OPR, you should be expecting to face ambush in someone's army. And so the first leg of that is building the right army. The second leg is playing the right strategy. That's going to be generally how you set up. For instance, setting up towards one corner, using the 9-inch bubble in your chaff to protect key units. And finally, you want to work towards countering that turn 2. So let's just get into one point about the larger points. I think this has to be mentioned that, a lot of people, I go back and forth about whether ambush costs too much points or costs enough points. The problem with a rule like ambush is that you can't really balance it, because the more points you play, sort of the worse it gets, right? At really 1,000 to 1,500 points, there's just an ambush heavy player it's going to be at just a severe advantage. And there's not a lot you can do at that low points because you just don't have the models. At these low points, bringing in an ambush squad that can just sort of ambush in and hit and kill that key unit can oftentimes just end the game on turn 2. You just have a snowballing effect. I think that at sort of 2,000, 2,500, ambush is still really powerful and it's difficult to deal with, but it's manageable at least. Where I feel like 3,000 plus points, ambush is a lot more balanced. So like if you play more than 3,000 points, you actually don't want to bring an ambush heavy army, because the opponent just, one, it has enough units to basically protect their flanks and spread out, and 2, even if you kill a key unit, the opponent's usually going to have the ability to basically have a few more key units there. So that's what I would say. Changing the point cost on ambush isn't really the answer, because and I just would in general tell you, if you want to start playing OPR more balanced, it is more, I will always suggest play it at a minimum of 2,500, but try to start working towards 3,000, and you're going to find out that a lot of the balance issues in OPR sort of work themselves out. Okay, so for this point, I am going to talk about 2,000 points, because that's, where I think a lot of people struggle, and it's the common point total. All right, so the first thing that you do, this isn't going to be for every army, but if you have warning cry in your army, you need to bring at least 2 units, preferably 3, and you basically need to put these units on the flanks. Warning cry is like a crazy good upgrade that it's really, to me, a shame that some armies have it and some armies don't. Like, warning cry is an upgrade that's so powerful, it really should just be in every army. And I just stand by that point. It is so good. I'm not going to cover how to use warning cry, simply because most armies unfortunately don't have warning cry. But if you're an army that, lucky enough, do have warning cry, you need to bring it. You need to have at least 2 units, preferably 3. Hey, just spread them on your flanks. It's going to make ambush just a lot less powerful against you. Now, for the rest of us armies, the next thing would be to bring chaff. A good rule of thumb that I always say, bring 2 chaff units per 1,000 points. That means at 2,000 points, you should have around 4 chaff units. Now, you can go up higher or lower, but that's a good rule of thumb. you want about 2 units of chaff per 1,000. When you get beyond 3,000, that obviously can adjust, but for 2,000, 4 to 5 units of chaff is just going to be really key. And that's because a big part about Ambush's strategy is sort of its first strike capabilities. And as we're going to get into, I'm going to show you on the battlefield maps, you have to have a way to sort of buffer against those key units. All right, the next thing you have to do, I think is almost important, is to bring an ambush of your own. Now, with 3.4, this is the great thing about one of the best changes in 3.4 was now ambushes aren't randomized. Now, whoever goes first has to commit that first ambusher. And that actually makes having a counter ambusher of your own very powerful. And we'll get into that about why, but I always say, like, really try to, if you can, bring an ambusher. Bring a powerful ambush too. Bring an ambush unit that can just hit really hard to basically counter. Either one, you're placing it next to the ambushed unit, or two, you're placing it far away from the ambusher's unit so you can sort of counter them. So again, really important to have an ambush unit in your army. All right, so with this in mind, we've covered our 3. Let's just talk about some units at 2,000 points. I have like 2 armies that I want to run. I've picked one. I picked a Dow Union and then a Battle Brothers. Okay, so let's just look at a Dow Union list. So where is my chaff? I have 4 units of chaff. One I have is these 3 of these are grunt leaders. Now, if I really wanted to, I can actually make these guys cheaper and just run 3 grunt leaders at 35 points apiece. These are chaff units, right? Now, what I did is I actually gave them a little bit of utility. I've added those 3 spotting lasers. Actually, your hero units for a lot of armies will work great as chaff. At 60 points, quality 4, def 4, and tough 3, it's actually pretty difficult to kill this unit for its points. I run them at 60 points because I think that spotting laser, it sort of, if an opponent ignores them, it gives them a little bit of utility. So I would also tell you this, I've seen too many people who put their leaders in units. I think more and more I play this game, I like my leader units sort of outside, just on their own. It's just more activation. So the 3 grunt leaders are 1. Each of them have a spotting laser, so they can stay back, they can sort of move around, but they can also be that chaff unit to spread out. Then I just have a big combined unit of 6 battle suits that I have with basically 4 fusion rifles. And so this is my ambushing unit that's also going to hit really hard. Then I have 2 10-man units of gun drones. You could easily just split these up into 4 5-mans if I wanted to. It's, different ways of playing. Then I have my 4th chaff unit. That's these sniper drones. Again, they're not very tough, but they're cheap. And also they're fearless too, so, you're really going to have to kill this unit. And then finally, I've got a hand-to-hand counter unit. It's a Tide Titan that's just basically just a hand-to-hand unit. I think that you basically need some shooting, you need some hand-to-hand in every army. So here is a 2,000 point Dow Union army list that I think will do pretty well, and it basically has all the things that I've previously discussed about. Let's look at a Battle Brothers army. So here I'm doing something very similar with the Battle Brothers. Now, what I've done here is I have 3 Master Brothers. I've actually given these guys upgrades. I've given them both Caster 3, 2 Caster 3s, and an Advanced Tactics. So these guys are expensive for 100 to 120 points, but they're also tougher. So those are my 3 units of chaff that are just running off on their own, but these guys are also doing something. That Caster 3 and Advanced Tactics, they're doing something. Even that Flamer pistol is great on them. I then have a 5-man unit of Pathfinders with shotgun. I mean, that's just great. Again, 4 units of basically chaff. 10-man Battle Bros with 2 last cannons. I could split those up. Then I've got a combined unit of Support Brothers that I've given last cannons and missile launchers to. Finally, I've got my destroyers coming in. I've given them just energy swords because now with the level 3 upgrade, I'll just show you the spells. My 6 caster tokens are really nice. I can cast the Cursed Ground. Very good. Also, the Time Passage. That's that AP3. So these destroyers can actually just be hitting something at AP4 with rending. So you can just see here, both of these armies, they've got some smaller units for chaff, 4 of them, and they've got some bigger units there to sort of counterpunch. All right, let's talk about some of the setup and strategy here. So I'm going to show you some maps, but 3 things you should keep in mind. 1, if you're playing against an ambush-heavy army, you should try to set up to one corner. Use the edge of the battlefield as your advantage. And also, I would say, try to have some long-range firepower in your army. Right? If you're not running an ambush strategy, you want to pick a corner, use that other half of the battlefield to stop basically protect one of your flanks. Then you just have one flank. The other thing you want to do is you want to surround key units. So this is where your chaff comes in. You want to use your chaff to keep that ambush range back. You also want to sort of be a little more aggressive with your chaff. Try to push them up. You want to hide them. You really want to keep your chaff alive by turn 1. Because we're going to talk about this. Goes into the next point here. You want to counter turn 2. Remember something, an ambush-heavy army will get an advantageous ambush, eventually. But you're not going to stop them forever. The goal here is just counter their turn 2. Make it so that they either have a bad a bad ambush turn 2, or they have to wait till turn 3. Because the moment they have to go to turn 3, it makes ambush a lot less effective. Now they can just kill a unit, and now they only have 1 turn to grab an objective. So you want to have your first turn so that all it is turn 1. Have 1 turn where you just really give your opponent a bad turn 2 drop. All right, so let's put all of this together and let's sort of look at a map here. So I've got a Universal Battles display. This is this Battle Brothers army that I did earlier. So here's the setup. On the bottom left, you can see I've picked a corner. Here I've chose to, again, look, my units are 9 inches away from this corner. So that means that they can ambush on this flank. And I've actually spread out so these are my 2, so here's my 3 Master Brothers here. And I've got them, again, look, I've got these Master Brothers way far out here, so that actually I'm covering a lot of space with this very elite army. And what have I done? I've basically tucked in these Support Brothers and these Tactical Brothers. I've tucked them in the center. So now I've got all this space that I'm protecting my flanks on turn 1, that I can move up, and just, and again, all I am trying to do is on by the end of turn 1, I have this. So this is at the end of turn 2. What I've done is I pushed up my scouts, pushed up one of my Master Brothers, and what I've done here is look how much space I've created with just these chaff units. Now, you do have to protect them, and that's the thing. An opponent certainly, this is very simplistic tactics, so we have to get into talking about protecting your chaff and all that sort of stuff. But the goal here is hide your chaff on turn 1 and get them where they can create this bubble. Now, look at my Support Brothers in this corner here. They have so much space in this bottom left corner that just can't be ambushed in. And they themselves are protecting their flanks and their rear. I then have another, my support, they move up, but they're still, this is another thing. I have 1 guy within 9 inches of the backfield so that no ambushers can come into the back. Look, here's this guy. So you can just see how much space I've created here. So let's just imagine now, maybe this guy's running just Hive Lord. He's got 2 Hive Lords, right? Well, he could drop his Hive Lord here, or just in this corner, or even towards this flank. But the thing here, this strategy, I'm not giving my opponent any real key units for him to take out on turn 2. Yes, his Hive Lord you are going to lose units to ambush, but it's a lot like chess. It's just protecting your key units. So here, and again, wherever he drops those Hive Lords, I now can drop my Destroyer Squad to counter him, right? So I can put my Destroyer Squad in the center, maybe towards here. I now have some room to protect him. Or maybe I can, if he places his key unit here, maybe I drop my Destroyers back here. So again, this is just a way that you can use your army lists and your deployment to really push back and counter a good ambush-heavy army. Or even an army that just has 1 really nasty ambusher, like a Hive Lord, or maybe a Destroyer Squad themselves, right? So here are some tips that I hope this helps you in your games. Hope this helps you win more games, especially when you have your opponent who's playing ambush. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Hope this helps. Provide feedback. Hey, like, subscribe, and comment. Hey, you can always send me your armies and army lists and tactics. I'm always happy to give advice on the Discord.